Every journey is a shared experience, and we have been on a decades-long journey together, all of us, and that's quite remarkable. Stories about mystery islands and buried treasures are some of the most fascinating when it comes to legends. For many people, these stories are more than myths and are very real, such as the Oak Island legend and the tomb of Genghis Khan. But for some others, they are nothing more than fantasy or fiction, like the popular series Pirates of the Caribbean. However, according to Joe Rogan, the famous Oak Island legend of Nova Scotia, Canada might contain a terrifying truth that many people are not aware of. What side of the real versus myth conversation is Joe Rogan on? If Oak Island is indeed real, what should be the next step? Join us in this video as we look into how Joe Rogan reveals the terrifying truth about Oak Island. Although he began his career in the late 1980s as a stand-up comedian, Joe Rogan only rose to national fame in 2009 when he launched his podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience. The podcast quickly became one of the most popular and influential shows in the world. The podcast features Rogan engaging in lengthy conversations with guests, including comedians, actors, scientists, authors, politicians, and athletes. These conversations are based on a wide variety of topics, from comedy and entertainment to politics, philosophy, and the mysteries of the universe. He has also cultivated a reputation as a controversial and polarizing figure, often sparking debate with his strong opinions on various subjects. So when he decided to discuss the legend of Oak Island and its mysterious treasures, it was destined to be explosive. Located in Nova Scotia, Canada, Oak Island and its mythical riches are some of history's most sought-after secrets. Since the 19th century, explorers from all over the world have made numerous attempts to locate its artifacts and treasures. However, despite the number of lives lost on the island while attempting to discover its riches, there are stories of many competent and talented explorers who remain inspired to take the risk. One of these is the story of the Legina brothers. 11-year-old Rick Legina could never have predicted that glancing through a copy of Reader's Digest in 1965 would affect his life forever. The story that caught his attention was about a legendary treasure hidden on an island in the wilds of Canada. He and his brother Marty became even more captivated when their father showed them an article about Oak Island in the Wall Street Journal. Rick was more intrigued by the buried treasure than his brothers, especially after learning that many others had attempted and failed to uncover it. He was young at the time, but he realized he had a tremendous assignment ahead of him, and he wasn't about to back down or give up. Rick Legina's curiosity about the Oak Island treasure was unsurprising given that he was already a natural adventurer. He had already participated in a treasure hunt in 1964 in his hometown of Kingsford. During his exploration, he came across Ross, a massive granite rock. His curiosity compelled him to investigate what was beneath it, so he enlisted the help of his brother Marty and a group of other kids his age from their neighborhood to lift the boulder. To Rick and his friends' dismay, they did not find any expensive or valuable objects behind the large rock. They did uncover a pile of soil beneath the rock, but that was to be anticipated, right? Nonetheless, curious souls never give up, and a slight setback did not deter Rick. Rick knew there was more out there in the world waiting for him to explore it. But before we explore Oak Island with the Legina brothers, let's discuss how a similar curiosity over 150 years ago led to the legend of treasures on this island. In 1796, a small boy spotted a weird dip on Oak Island. It was an unusual sight, and it would lead to many people coming to check out what he found. 8 years later, the Onslow Company organized a team to search the area. While we'll never know why it took them so long to start the exploration, I guess it's better late than never. After identifying the weird dip and some strange markings in the area, the explorers began drilling. They drilled down until they touched something solid. They discovered a buried stone tablet with an unusual inscription. After finding the stone, there was only one thing left to do: try to figure out what was written on it. Experts got to work seeking to interpret and understand the transcription. However, despite their best efforts, they couldn't interpret the inscription. Their failure was probably because they lacked the necessary instruments and knowledge. The transcription would not be translated until nearly 100 years later. In 1886, a professor from Halifax decoded a startling phrase: 40 feet below, 2 million pounds lie buried. No one knew what pounds meant, although the phrase does seem menacing. An interesting theory about this statement is that it suggests that a significant amount of treasure was beneath the surface, ready to be discovered. What was the origin of the treasure? Many theories have surfaced. Strangely, some people attributed the origins of the treasure to William Shakespeare. Many who questioned the writer's existence claim his literary works were created by Francis Bacon. So, some treasure hunters speculated that Bacon might have dug a trench to bury his manuscripts and riches. While this hypothesis is appealing, it is now universally accepted that Shakespeare was, well, himself, rather than Francis Bacon or anyone else. Another story is that Oak Island's hidden riches belonged to a famed French royal lady, Marie Antoinette. Marie allegedly dispatched her maid to Nova Scotia to conceal her wealth and jewelry on the island. Rumors circulated that the French Navy was also implicated in the cover-up, although this was never proven. One element that supports the theory of Marie's action is that she was captured at Varennes with no jewelry or gold on her. The list of theories goes on, with some entries involving pirates and sailors. Captain Kidd is thought to have buried part of his loot on Oak Island. Others say that when Captain Blackbeard said he buried something where none but Satan and myself can find it, he was admitting to stashing something on the island. However, the next theory is by far the most intriguing. One of the most intriguing hypotheses regarding the Oak Island treasure revolves around the marks found around the island, which appear to match a Masonic ritual. Is it possible that such a ritual took place on the island? Do the Freemasons have any connection to the island, and could they have hidden some treasures there as well? No one knows. Let's go back to the little boy, Daniel Maginnis, who discovered the weird circular depression in the ground in 1796. When he spoke up about his discovery, he didn't know he would start an exploration movement. He just saw something odd, which piqued his curiosity. As he got closer, he noticed a tree with its branches cut off. On seeing the tree, he remembered all of the pirate and treasure chest stories he had heard over the years. He suspected that the branches had been removed on purpose so that the tree might function as a pulley. Daniel was determined to learn more about the tree's purpose, so he enlisted the assistance of his pals, John Smith and Anthony Vaughan, to find out whatever might be buried beneath the tree. With all their might and excitement, the young lads began digging, and after 2 feet, they hit a flagstone. The youngsters removed the flagstone and continued digging. They made it roughly 30 feet down, where they discovered layers upon layers of oak logs. They eventually realized they couldn't go any further by themselves and assumed they would have to wait years to be able to follow their quest. But this was only the beginning of their incredible adventure. Almost a decade later, the Onslow Company arrived and dug in the same spot where the 3 boys had previously dug. With their equipment, they were able to go deeper. After reaching 60 feet, they discovered more oak logs, this time with coconut fiber and charcoal in thick layers. The team continued to dig, curious about what lay beneath, until they discovered the stone tablet with a strange inscription. Thrilled with their finding and anticipating more bounty for their labor, they took out another layer of oak wood. But that led to disaster as water began to flood the pit they had dug. Where was the water coming from? No one could tell. Could this be a ruse to divert their attention from their search for gold? The only